Okay, well, it's our favorite time of the year. Football is back. NFL is king. Thursday kicks off the season. Fantasy drafts just wrapping up. So we got to get our fantasy guru on. This is Ricky Larson, Lucky Shots Media. Ricky, great to have you back. 7-month layoff. We did talk a little free agency, but now we finally get to feast on regular season NFL football again this week.
Hell yeah, football is back. It's literally like a however long Christmas for me. I don't I mean I watch other sports,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't get as invested as I do in football. So definitely glad it's back. Glad to be doing this again with you. Uh like I said on my show, it's my favorite part of the week. So
Yeah.
besides the football,
No, of
favorite
course.
part's talking about it.
Yeah, we got to dissect each week. So our weekly hitter, beginning with week one, excited to get you back. So let's start with kind of the first time I really heard this really be spewed as almost gospel this year in terms of draft construction. We're moving away from the running backs. Did you kind of notice this in your various fantasy drafts and what do you think about that notion that, hey, the numbers are kind of suggesting that you should be targeting receivers more than running backs in terms of your fantasy draft early on?
I mean, if you backtrack to last year, I said I was going to try to adopt that thought because it was kind of leaning that way last year.
Yeah.
It actually worked out for me pretty well. I made the league championship in one league, made the playoffs in the others. Didn't win ultimately, but wasn't my fault. Injuries happen. But
So who was your first receiver you went after?
this year,
No, from your championship season or championship
oh,
run.
who was it? I ended up getting Jefferson towards the end
Okay.
of those rounds. And Tyreek Hill as well. I wouldn't recommend going after Hill this year.
Yeah.
He'll still be fine, but yeah, definitely because if you look at point discrepancies, there's a decent discrepancy from top 5 to under the top 15 for running backs. But if you look at the receiver weeks we had last year,
Yeah.
holy shit, the discrepancy between 5 and 15 is astronomical. I mean,
Yeah.
receivers, especially if you're in a PPR league, because who do you tend to draft running back wise in a PPR league? Somebody who gets catches. So why wouldn't you immediately go after wide receivers who that's their job?
Yeah.
And if you get a guy like Jefferson, Chase this year, Tyreek Hill of years past,
Yeah.
they're going to outscore your running backs every single week. So why not go for, wide receivers who could possibly get you 20 a week and settle for a running back that maybe only gets you 10 to 15 a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I implemented it last year, worked pretty well for me this year, tried to do the same. Kind of didn't help that in 2 drafts, I had the 1 and 2 picks. So obviously you got to go running back there, but I still am pretty wide receiver heavy this year as well. So I like it. And, hopefully this year it turns into a championship because it definitely helped my fantasy game last year going wide receiver heavy over running backs.
And like you kind of dealt with last year, I was the number 1 overall pick and obviously got burned by McCaffrey. And that's the other thing, too, is the injury risk there is so much higher for the running backs. Yeah. So again, and I tried to implement this year as well, going more receivers, looking late round running backs. I found Chase Edmonds pretty late, like different guys like that. Zeke was going later than expected as his stock is starting to drop. But again, so to each his own there, we'll see how it plays out. So that is my next question is, who is the fantasy MVP this year, right? Last year was the coming, everyone knew Cooper Kupp was great, but like, oh my God, he's that great last year. Who's going to steal the show this year?
If Derrick Henry is healthy this year, doesn't get hurt, he was on track to be the fantasy, there was no touching Derrick Henry last year. 4 weeks after he got hurt, he still led fantasy. I mean, so if he's healthy this year, by far, he could easily, without receptions, be the fantasy MVP. But if I had to pick, it'd be either Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. I mean, look at Jefferson from year 1 to year 2, huge jump. you got to expect he's going to make an even bigger jump this year because in my mind, Adam Thielen, who regressed last year, is going to regress more this year. It's going to turn into more for him. And if you want to go on, well, Justin Jefferson was way better year 2. Jamar Chase, it's year 2. I would say he outdid Jefferson in his rookie year. I mean, he may not have broke those same records, but overall fantasy like impact, I feel like Jamar Chase had a bigger impact last year. So I think it'll be either one of those two guys if Derrick Henry doesn't stay healthy all year and has the same impact he did last year.
Devonte Adams, MVP in fantasy of years past, switching jerseys this year, reunites with a guy he remembers from college, right? Fresno State days. But we'll start with Devonte Adams. And then where do you kind of see, first of all, your thoughts on him and where he could end up this season in terms of points and overall fantasy lore? And then you mentioned Tyreek Hill, who's like the newcomer who switched teams and zip codes that might kind of benefit from doing so.
You know, if we're going to stick on Devonte Adams to start, I think, and this is just purely on what the Raiders also have right now, I think Devonte Adams takes a bit of a downgrade. It's not going to be huge. I think he's still going to be a top 10 wide receiver, but you got guys like Darren Waller. You got guys like Hunter Renfrow. Those two hogged targets last year, especially Hunter Renfrow. I mean, the guy was ultra targeted, and Darren Waller still had a huge year when he was healthy. I mean, there's going to be a lot to go around. I think that is going to be a very pass-heavy division, and when you got 6 of those games every year, you know, it's going to be fun. But I think he takes a bit of a downgrade, as I think Tyreek Hill does. You know, going to it, that's a huge downgrade from Patrick Mahomes to Tua.
Oh, yeah.
So I think he takes a big downgrade as well. The receiver didn't switch teams, but he got a new quarterback, got an upgrade at quarterback. I think Michael Pittman Jr. probably takes the biggest jump of wide receivers this year. I could see him vaulting himself into the top 5 just because, you know, you look at Indy's offense. I don't really see other receivers that are going to match Michael Pittman and Matt Ryan, regardless of what you want to say, you know, with how everything went in Atlanta. Atlanta was just a bad team.
Oh, yeah.
You barely had Julio. You barely had Calvin Ridley last year. That left you with one target in Kyle Pitts, who didn't catch a touchdown. Maybe he caught one. I think he might have caught one. But this is a big upgrade, a better offensive line, a better defense to give you the ball more opportunities, and a running game that can easily set up your passing game. I think Michael Pittman is probably going to be that breakout receiver this year. I mean, because, you know, all the other guys who are already good, Michael Pittman's got the talent. Now he's got the quarterback. I think he takes the biggest jump.
I would absolutely love that. Again, it's like you said, it's for whatever it's worth. I mean, he's 37, so it can't be a prove it year, but it's like, okay, you got rewarded for, you know, being treated terrible in Atlanta where they're dangling Deshaun Watson in front of you, treated terrible because they put a bunch of turnstiles in front of you for an offensive line for 3 years. And now you're rewarded with the best offensive line he's ever had, arguably one of the best in the NFL, arguably one of the best running backs behind him, which he's never had since maybe 1 year of Devontae Freeman. And like you said, weapons above freaking Olamide Zaccheaus. So I'm excited. Best rookie this year will be who?
That's tough because, let's be honest, this wasn't a super stacked rookie class. Man.
Yeah, no, I'll interject with I believe I saw the stat, first time we haven't had a week 1 starting rookie quarterback in like 6 years.
I think that'll change.
Right.
Well, you just said it, Kenny Pickett. I think we see him at some point this year. As much as I love Mitch Trubisky, and I have said if you just give him a good opportunity, he'll thrive. I don't know if he will. And they had Mitch Trubisky and then they drafted Kenny Pickett. So obviously they see something in Kenny Pickett. I think we end up seeing him at some point this year.
Yeah.
I think so. I guess if you're asking who's going to be the best rookie, I could just go with the guy who I think is going to break out the most as a rookie. Christian Watson has that potential in an offense that doesn't have many targets, but I actually think the breakout rookie this year is going to be Brian Robinson whenever he comes back.
Yeah.
They already wanted to give him sufficient time just from the preseason. They don't like Antonio Gibson. He's a guy that I drafted in multiple leagues because I think he's going to have those opportunities. So it's an offense that also got an upgrade at quarterback. They've got a good defense. I think he gets plenty of opportunities. Or if you want to look at a guy like Isaiah Pacheco, many people are probably going, who? He's a running back for the Chiefs. And during the preseason, the Chiefs said the only two running backs that have a solidified spot on this roster are Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco.
Okay.
We know how bad Clyde is.
Yeah.
What has he done in the past 2 years to warrant any solidified spot as the starter?
Yeah.
In an offense that could be passing a lot. We already know they pass a lot. I think Pacheco also has a great chance to break out this year.
I like it. All right, here's just kind of a generic question for you, fantasy-wise. Should you ever have two quarterbacks on your roster?
I'll give you a mixed answer here, because before this year, I was a guy who definitely had a second quarterback. I was like, at the bye week, I'm going to need one, and I want it to be somebody decent.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost now to the point where depth in your fantasy team, as in running backs, because running backs always get hurt. You want to have depth there. Wide receiver. If you draft two guys that you really like and they have the same bye week, you're out two wide receivers for 1 week. So it's good to have depth there as well. So I went no second quarterback this year. And there's a reason that there is the term of streaming quarterbacks, because, when your bye week comes, you just go look at the waiver wire. And if a lot of teams have two quarterbacks, then it's going to be hard for you to stream. But there's going to be a quarterback with a decent matchup that isn't going to bomb for you. He'll get you 15 points. Again, if your quarterback gets 15 and say you're against Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and they get 30, that's not a huge discrepancy. As to where if you play like you took a second quarterback, now you don't have depth at wide receiver, and you have two wide receivers get you 10 points and two other wide receivers on the other team get 30.
Yeah.
You're down 40 points.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a better option to have depth instead of a second quarterback, because you're going to get a bigger point discrepancy if you don't have people to plug in for those other skill positions besides quarterback.
Yeah, I made that change this year too. It's just kind of a numbers thing too. You said it. Like, I'm looking at week 1 right now, and the amount of quarterbacks that are out there, like right now, Matt Ryan is available in my league. Wentz, Tannehill, Matt Jones, Winston. So, there's options again to get you like 16 points. Would you rather have Matt Ryan or Trevor Lawrence?
Matt Ryan, 100%. We already kind of talked about the upgrade of offense. I think he's going to thrive. Is he going to be a top 10 quarterback? Probably not, but where the hell is Trevor Lawrence going to finish? I'd say outside the top 25. And I think Matt Ryan can easily, because Matt Ryan only has really one main offensive target.
Yeah.
I would rather take that over all the money Jacksonville spent on second string wide receivers from other teams. With a quarterback who threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns last year.
Yep. Agreed.
I don't see that huge jump. We talked about it on my show. I don't see the huge jump from Trevor Lawrence coming. He might make improvements, but he's not going to have the season that Matt Ryan's going to have. And I could venture to say Matt Ryan finishes in the top 15 this year as a quarterback.
I'm thinking and hoping as a biased take that he does. But again, I think the change of scenery is going to do him good. I think running back's such a crapshoot this year. Again, who's going to stay healthy? Who's going to pop off? Who's a handcuff that you like the most? A couple handcuffs that you maybe think worth stashing away on your bench.
Well, obviously, the main one that first comes to mind is Alexander Madison. Yeah. We know Dalvin Cook has trouble staying healthy quite a bit, and we have seen Madison come in when Cook isn't healthy and perform like a starting running back, like somebody you would have on your starting lineup if Dalvin Cook wasn't a thing. So he is obviously the major one. Another one that a lot of people might not think of, a couple actually, Melvin Gordon in that Broncos offense. I actually saw a stat from last year that I didn't even realize as a Broncos fan. The Broncos backfield was second in rushing yards combined between their two running backs with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. I don't think Javonte is going to get hurt, but if he gets a higher workload and his body isn't used to it, could see a lot more of Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon could even be a flex option this year. So he'd be a great handcuff. And then because of the way that the Green Bay backfield is going to be, most people are going to draft Aaron Jones as the running back one for them. So A.J. Dillon's another great handcuff because those are two guys you could honestly probably start together. And if you don't want to, at least you got Aaron Jones, who's a big hitter that could break off a huge run. If he goes down, A.J. Dillon is just as capable. He's like an Alexander Madison. And this backfield, from reports, is going to be a 50-50 split. So A.J. Dillon is just as good. I think he's in the 1B role. He's not necessarily a backup, but he's not necessarily the main starter. So I think he's a great handcuff as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. And it looks like there's two guys that are like great friends too, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I've been seeing reports coming out and two different contrasting styles, which I love to see too. And as a BC guy, I obviously want to see A.J. Dillon succeed. All right, Ricky Larson, Lucky Shots Media. Great to get him on again throughout the season. We'll talk next week, but I want to get him out of here with this before we go enjoy week 1 of NFL football. Receiver nobody is talking about that you love. My answer, who's this guy here? I love that, even though I hate the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown. What did he had? 6 straight games with a touchdown to close the season? 4, but he went off.
Yeah, he was, I think over that span, he was like wide receiver 6 with Jared Goff as his quarterback.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Hell yeah. He's a guy that I was targeting for sure in most of my leagues. I didn't end up getting him just from where I fell, but he is definitely one I really like. Oh man, I kind of got to think on that one because everybody's talking about the Broncos receivers, Oh, now they've got Russell Wilson. Man, I did have somebody in mind. Oh yeah. Rookie wide receiver. I might have even said his name earlier in the show, but Christian Watson.
Okay.
No, nobody's talking about him. He's pretty good. I mean, he was pretty good at North Dakota State. And again, if you look at the Green Bay offense, there's no main guy. So somebody has to break out. And I would rather take a chance on a rookie than Randall Cobb or, somebody else. I don't know. He could just do absolutely nothing this year. Or if he's in the lineup, has a huge game, boom, Aaron Rodgers has a new number 1 target. We know what a number 1 target for Aaron Rodgers looks like. So that's somebody that not a lot of people are talking about. And I feel like not a lot of people are giving Hollywood Brown the kind of respect that he should have. He played on an offense that didn't throw the football, and he was still a relevant fantasy wide receiver. Now he's on an offense who throws the ball more. You don't have a running back for a quarterback. And he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins in his way for 6 weeks.
Yeah, great point.
So, I mean, he's going to be somebody that I think, at least for the first 6 weeks, I don't know what it looks like after that, but for the first 6 weeks, he could definitely pull in a good quarter or a good 3 quarters of DeAndre Hopkins targets.
On the Green Bay Packers note on Watson, they selected Adams in the second round. Look what he turned into because of Rodgers, kind of an unknown guy out of college. Yeah, so Rodgers can turn Jacob Sternberger into a competent receiver, and so he'll certainly have an opportunity with his new second round pick. Ricky, good to get you back. Looking forward to this weekend. Check out our DFS lineups on your podcast at Lucky Shots Media. That's coming out this week, and we'll talk to you next week, Ricky. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.